And so finally, a sign of fighting spirit shown by India. It was a day where India can comfortably go into the dressing room feeling that they can have a realistic chance of saving this test match. In fact, more than realistic given how the weather has played out for the first 4 days of the third test, as well as the injury to Josh Hazlewood. To quickly recap, India were reduced to 213 for 9 on a rain-affected day. It looked all but certain that they would be made to follow on by Australia. But then Jasprit, Bumrah and Akash Deep showed incredible fighting spirit to help India avoid the follow-on. A beautiful uppercut that crossed the boundary line, which did the job for India. Australia still lead by 193 runs, but it's just 1 day remaining. And weather permitting, India will hopefully, from Rohit Sharma's point of view, salvage a draw from this. Well, Sandip G, who's joining us, would agree it was a very pathetic situation.
Yeah, it still is quite a pathetic situation, but hopefully, and now draw. I mean, India could actually pull off a draw. I mean, the match is salvageable in that way. Though you never know. I mean, if you get a full day of 105 hours, and if Australia bat for 10-15 hours and scores some 100 more, some 50-60 more runs, it can all be quite tricky. It can all go still pear-shaped for India. In Brisbane, where this bit of overnight rain and the seam movement of this new Kukubra ball till the 30th hour can actually wreak havoc. But yeah, I mean, we can be slightly optimistic about tomorrow's result.
Something so much to kind of talk from today's play. I think 10-15 minutes is too short a time to look at all that, but we'll try. The first ball of the day set it up properly, right? Steve
Absolutely.
Smith dropping a lollipop of KL Rahul giving a lease of life, and then KL Rahul playing a brilliant block, showing everyone else in the dressing room how it's to be done.
Absolutely. I mean, KL Rahul's always problem throughout his career has been he has a lot of different gears in his batting. So he couldn't just grasp or realize that, okay, which way should I play? I mean, he can play in a lot of different ways. That he was spoiled for choice in that way. That was his problem. He can defend, he can bat like a accumulator, he can stonewall, and he can attack also. He was probably confused, like which way to go, which way to. I mean, that was the problem that Rahul has faced all through his career. But in Australia, he has batted with a clarity, with a plan that, okay, I leave balls outside the off stump. I need in middle with anything that I need to. Like, his leaving has been impeccable. I mean, as good as Murli Vijay back in that 2014 series against England. I mean, his level of the assurance where his off-stump is, as like Chaturshri Pujara recently said, it was impeccable. Like, judgment was good. I mean, he was pretty unfortunate to get out in that way. I mean, to a beautiful catch again by Steve Smith.
Brilliant catch. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he would be a little pissed off with himself because, he would be disappointed with himself because, 100 was there for the taking. I mean, people will forget this 90s and 80s and all. I mean, that 3-figure mark, that makes a lot of difference, especially somebody like KL Rahul who's trying to, who has faced a lot of criticism from pundits, from public, that about his average, about his struggles against seam bowling. But, I mean, Sean, he has a maturity, he has a skill level. Skill has never been a question. Now he has shown this temperament and judgment, hopefully it's the start of a brilliant phase for KL Rahul, not just remaining 2 test matches, the England series next year. I mean, hopefully he'll be one of India's pillars in the next 3-4 years.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, it at least completely settles the debate around his position in the team, this knock. And not just this knock, he's looked one of the more assured batsmen throughout this series. And you mentioned how he's been leaving everything outside off stump. And that's something Rohit Sharma and Kohli and Shubman Gill can look at and learn. It's surprising how much they've fallen for that, just fishing outside off and then getting caught behind the stumps. I loved many of the many glorious cover drives and the shots around that area. Rahul was superb to watch that.
Absolutely. He's always a easy on the eye player. I mean, he drives beautifully, as beautifully as anyone in this Indian team. And then he has his square drive also. It's pretty. He just opens his bat face and just guides it. I mean, he's pretty strong on the legs too. He had a sort of lean face here and there, and he was pretty unfortunate with injuries. Like, he scored 100 in South Africa and he got injured soon after that. All these little things, affect a career. I mean, when people judge a batsman, they're sometimes pretty harsh on them. Like, they forget about the injuries, they forget about the comebacks, they forget about the struggles they had. I mean, Rahul has been pretty unfortunate that especially for a batsman who has actually scored runs in Australia. He's a couple of hundreds in England, 100 in South Africa, 100 in Australia in his first series.
First series, yeah.
Yeah. And then that 2016-18 phase, he was quite unfortunate that, he missed a lot of home games due to freak injuries, even against series against England last year. He missed a lot of home series where you can actually balance your average and all those stuff. And this, again, in this series, when you look at it, he might not average like in the high 40s or something, but still, the two most valuable knocks played.
Knocks.
Yeah, two absolutely important knocks. And he's somebody who can give that, take the shine of the ball. The 30 overs, after 30 overs, you play 30 overs without much damage. You can actually build on it. That's how Australia batted, like Travis said and Steve Smith. Once the 30 over period was over, the Kukubra loses everything. It's completely defanged. So if someone else also can hang around with him, see through that period, batting becomes a lot more easier in every wicket. He will be in Brisbane or in the next test match in Gabba, the typical next test match in MCG. So it's always like that in Australia. So you need solid foundation. We have found one. Rahul is doing an exemplary job, and hopefully Yashasvi also. He scored 100 in his first game, but he also needs to show that kind of adaptability on different kinds of Australian pitches. Australian pitches also vary drastically. One might not swing that much, and especially sessions, but it's different in every session, in different days. So if he can also learn a few things from Rahul, especially his discipline outside the off stump. And Jaiswal also hasn't struggled, but he has got around in softer ways. There's no major flaw in his batting as such, but just the faint tickles down the leg side and all those very soft kind of dismissals. He should be a little more wary of that.
Rahul had a perfect partner in Ravindra Jadeja today, 77 to accompany Rahul's 84, and selection justified in a way because Jadeja didn't have the best of the matches with the ball, but he proved he's still handy when it comes to playing those gritty knocks along with the lower order, and today his 77 indeed made a difference in terms of India following on and saving this test match or the other way around.
Absolutely vital knock. Of all the three spin bowling all-rounders we have, he has the best defensive technique. Ashwin might have a lot of more elegant strokes. Washington Sundar, maybe he's a much more of a proper batsman, as they say. But Jadeja's defense is impeccable. He has the best defense around. He has a very good forward stride, very pretty resolute on the back foot. So, and then he's the grittiest of them. Adverse situations, he always has this knack of saving his best for adversity. And today was one of those instances. Besides, he has a quite decent record in Australia. He's a couple of 50s in his last 6-7 knocks. So in hindsight, it was a pretty good decision. That 77 also made a huge difference to India avoiding this follow. You take out 77, India would have been at least 3 down by stumps tonight.
Then certainly Australia would be on course to a 2-1 lead. But the whole momentum and the balance also shifted because of the injury to Josh Hazlewood, right? The calf injury that he picked. That meant Mitchell Starc and Pat Cummins had to bowl a lot more than they would have imagined at the start of the day. Mitch Marsh, anyway, his injury and his health always was a question mark of how much bowling load he could take, and he wasn't a big help to the bowling unit as well. Looking at the bigger picture before we come to Bumrah and Akash Deep's knock, not having Josh Hazlewood, does it make a lot of a difference given that he's unlikely for the next 2 games as well?
Because next 2 games maybe they'll have Scott Boland. Scott Boland is a slightly different kind of a bowler, but who can still be quite probing, quite sharp. But this test match, they seriously missed him because the ball, even if the pitch was not aiding massive movement, Josh Hazlewood always keeps the line and length, always makes a batsman play at balls, he's always on the 4th, 5th stump line, always the hard length. He's pretty smart manipulator of lengths. So they definitely missed him missed him massively. Ball just 6 overs in this entire game, and these 2 guys bowled 20 overs, 21 overs. Pat Cummins and Mitchell Starc would get some rest between these 2 test matches next test. So probably they'll be quite overtaxed. The muscles would be aching. And probably Nathan Lyon was slow. He was a little. He was not on the money today, as he mostly is. He was a little erratic here and there. That also contributed.
One more person who will be needing some rest is Jasprit Bumrah. He's been saving India with the ball. He's now doing it with the bat too. Ably helped by Akash Deep. A surprise package there with the bat, Sandeep. I'll be honest, when they were both out there at 213 for 9, it looked like India would certainly be following on, and Yashasvi and L Rahul would have to come back out in the middle very soon. But a brilliant display of fighting spirit by both of them. And I don't remember the last time an uppercut by a tail-ender was celebrated so wildly in the Indian dressing room.
But the last time I saw an uppercut, number 10 playing an uppercut, was Akash Deep himself. He's a pretty handy batsman. Like, I mean, he scored a few half centuries in domestic cricket. He likes to. I mean, he's not a like number 11 Jack who throws his bat around. He's slightly more refined. He has a few shots. He's a pretty good hits driver down the ground also. So these little things like helped India a lot in that way. Like, I mean, usually last few years, like, I mean, it's like the last 3 wickets have been walking wickets for India. But
Yeah.
Jasprit has really worked on his batting. I mean, every time you've seen the nets now, he'll often ask when Shami was around, he'll ask him to bowl. Even Akash Deep also used to make him bowl at him. So he's been working a bit around his batting as well. A little more tighter.
What brilliant forward defense of Nathan Lyon.
Yeah. It's a little tighter defense.
Yeah.
Then he loves batting. He loves batting in the nets also.
Amazing. So yeah, he'll have to do a lot. He'll have to bowl, he'll have to bat, he'll have to save India from precarious situations. At least it looks like India have avoided a defeat here.
Yeah, and what's worse is his start-stop sessions now. I mean, it's really irritates batsmen. Like, I mean, L Rahul, if he's batted in one flow, who knows, he must have gotten a bigger score. But then you get set, you get your eyes in, you feel the air, you feel the light, and you adjust to the light, and then everything you have to go. Then after 5 hours, you walk back to the pavilion and then come back and do all these things again. That's why Rahul's 84, it's all the more beautiful because he had to get his eyes in maybe some 8 to 9 times on a conservative estimate. So, and it's good for Australia because, the bowlers can catch a breather, then they needn't bowl these really long shifts, especially when they didn't have Hazlewood. So that really helped Australia in a lot of ways.
Truly, and we'll see if that helps them in any way on the final day of this test match. It's still like heavily balanced in favor of Australia, but India have got themselves into a position where they can at least salvage a draw. We'll see how day 5 goes, whether there'll be more rain interruptions or it'll be a straight day of 90 or 105 overs. Before we let you guys go, Sriram Veera has sent his inputs from Brisbane. So let's listen to him. We'll be back with the final episode of the third test of the Bhargava Trophy Special. Thanks for listening. Thank you, Sandip G, for joining us. And here's Sriram Veera with his inputs.
Hello, listeners. Yet another crazy, beautiful day of Test cricket. Barring a huge collapse or something stunning, India should be able to draw this Test match. And they would also be happy that it isn't just the rains that saved the game, but their lower order starting from, especially the last wicket partnership of Akash Deep and Jasprit, Bumrah, which had a very sparse crowd, thrilled and even more the Indian dugout and the dressing room. Absolutely enthralled. It was great fun to watch that they contributed. And of course, Ravindra, Jadeja played a wonderful hand, so did L Rahul. In the end, it came down to the two best bowlers in the side, Jasprit and Akash Deep, to do the job with the bat also. So that's a bit of a concern as in top order, which we spoke about yesterday. Today, the day started with Rohit Sharma can pull off something, can do something, but he fell again, and now he has probably 4 more innings left in the store to find out whether this decline is a temporary thing, or is it the age, or is it like terminal decline. So Rohit definitely doesn't need runs, but that's now pushed out to the next test. The worry about losing this and heading to Melbourne and Sydney 1-2, that probably is ceased. Now again the series is perked up, which is a very, very, very important thing, especially in the light of Josh Hazlewood who's coming in, that he's missing out for the rest of the series for the calf. The fact, did they rush him play here, especially when Scott Boland had bowled beautifully at the pink ball test? Perhaps Australia realized that they should be going 2-1 up before they hit Melbourne and Sydney, traditionally where Sydney, India do well. But if, spinners pitch and all that, of course, India have come from a 0-3 loss at New Zealand. So that sort of a conservative stereotype of how India would do in Sydney doesn't hold anymore. But still, can see why Australia wanted to win here and get to Melbourne ahead. Now, that's probably not happening. So they have to think. They'll also have to think about how they bowled at Akash Deep and just with a lot of short pitch stuff. We asked a question to the coach, one of the assistant coaches, Daniel Vittori, the former New Zealand player who works with the Australian team. Well, he didn't give a straight answer. He just said that the ball had gone soft and, it was not doing it much if it's pitched up. So hence, probably the short step stuff. Cummins did have great success with the bouncers in the previous game. So you can understand why he tried it a bit. But after a point, it almost felt like a bit of an ego thing. running, and Akash got a wonderful plucky hand. There was a moment when the one ball was finally pitched and he went for it, and inside edge past the stumps, and there's a message came out from the dressing room, and L Rahul would later tell us that it was just a message to you can do it in singles also. Now the field is spread out. Just calm down a bit. That's all the message was, and he did it stylishly with an uppercut. So the great pluck of the last two shouldn't hide the failures of the top order. That still holds, and that's one of the main things you have to figure out. Of course, the bowling. Ravindra Jadeja doing batting really well was not a surprise. His technique is so precise. It's suited his way he bats in Test match cricket, especially overseas, has been very, very good so far. Good thing is with his below par bowling performances that now he's got some miles behind, and so he won't be rusty anymore the next time he comes on to bowl at Melbourne. So that's a good news. Now it remains the top order. How do we go about it?
You were listening to Express Sports by the Indian Express. This show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by me, Shashank Bhargava. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.